Andre turned before Mr. Jones could say another word. If he stayed any longer, doubt might find its way into the room. Behind him, he heard the scrape of the old chair across the wooden floor, followed by the familiar click of the rotary telephone being lifted from its cradle. A moment later, Mr. Jones's quiet voice faded into the soft crackle of the telephone line. Andre never looked back. He climbed into his car and pulled away from the house. But he wasn't heading to the store. Not yet. There was one more place he needed to go. The sheriff's office. For most of his life, Andre Maxwell had lived beneath the shadow of a question no one would answer. His father's name had survived. The truth had not. Fear had buried it. Silence had protected it. For decades, the men responsible had gone on with their lives while one family was left carrying unanswered questions. Until now. Tom Parker lay in a hospital bed, his failing heart finally giving voice to the secret he had carried for years. One confession had changed everything. Only one man remained. Sam Fuller. The sheriff listened without interrupting. Andre carefully recounted everything that had happened, from his conversation with Mr. Jones, to Tom Parker's confession, to the words that refused to leave his mind.
Sam shot him because he wouldn't give him one of his grape suckers.
When Andre finished, the room fell silent. The sheriff exchanged a quick glance with his deputies before making his decision. They would go. Not to make accusations. Not to force a confession. They would simply listen. If Sam chose to speak, every word would matter. Andre reached the store before anyone else. Then the sheriff's patrol car rolled quietly into the gravel lot behind the store, its headlights switched off long before it reached the building. A second vehicle followed close behind, carrying one deputy. Both men stepped out without a word as the night swallowed the sound of their boots. Andre led them to the rear entrance and waited. The night had settled over the countryside, wrapping the old country store in deep shadows. No one spoke. No one needed to. Every person waiting understood that the next few minutes might finally uncover a truth that had remained hidden for decades. A short time later, Mr. Jones' pickup rolled quietly into the front parking area. He climbed out with the slow, deliberate movements of a man carrying far more than age upon his shoulders. Without looking toward the back of the building, he walked to the rear entrance. He unlocked the back door and walked back to the front of the store. The sheriff entered first. The deputy followed close behind. Neither man tried to hide what they were there to do. They simply moved quietly toward the back of the store, remaining out of sight where they could hear every word without being seen. Then they waited. Moments later, headlights swept across the front of the store. Another truck eased into the parking lot. It was Sam Fuller. He parked beside Mr. Jones's truck and climbed out. For several seconds, he simply stood there staring at the building. It almost looked as though he were gathering the courage to walk inside, or perhaps returning to a place where memories had never truly left him. He opened the front door. The small bell above it chimed softly. Inside, the familiar smell of old wood, coffee, and dusty shelves filled the quiet store. Mr. Jones looked up from behind the counter. Neither man smiled. The silence between them already knew too much. Finally, Sam spoke. His voice came out tighter than he intended. Nervous. Uneasy. Almost trembling. Everything was in place. That's when Andre figured that this wasn't where he needed to be. If Sam confessed, Andre wanted to hear it himself. So he quietly slipped around the outside of the building, keeping to the shadows until he reached the front entrance. The porch was dimly lit, and the old storefront windows reflected the darkness more than they revealed the room inside. He positioned himself just beyond the edge of the doorway, careful not to cast a shadow across the glass. Then he listened. Sam wasn't simply talking. He was coming apart. Each sentence seemed heavier than the one before it. Then Sam looked at Mr. Jones. His voice came out tight, almost shaky.
Jones, what happened to Tom?
The question hung in the air. Mr. Jones answered quietly, giving Sam exactly what he needed to keep him talking. His shoulders stiffened. His fingers curled around the edge of the counter until his knuckles turned white. The overhead lights cast long shadows across his face, making every nervous glance and every trembling movement impossible to miss. Mr. Jones never interrupted. He simply listened. Not because he agreed or approved, but because after carrying one secret for so many years, he knew another one was finally fighting its way into the open. Outside, Andre leaned closer to the glass. His heartbeat pounded so loudly, he wondered if everyone around him could hear it. His breathing became shallow. Cold sweat gathered beneath his jacket despite the cool night air. Every muscle in his body tightened. He wasn't afraid of what Sam might say. He was afraid of finally hearing it. Then, Sam confessed. The words spilled into the silence with devastating finality. Andre closed his eyes when he saw Sam's face harden. Years hadn't softened him. If anything, they had only given his bitterness more time to take root. With the dismissive shake of his head, he spoke without remorse.
I'm glad he's dead. How dare he think he was more than a white man? He should have stayed in his place like the rest of them. But because he had an education, he thought he was smarter than everybody else, including us white folks.
Outside the front door, Andre felt the words hit him like blows. A flood of memories crashed over him. His father's laughter. Saturday afternoons. The familiar crinkle of a paper sack. The sweet smell of grape suckers. Then, the years of silence. The unanswered questions. The empty place his father had left behind. Andre's jaw tightened. It wasn't anger. Not yet. It was something colder. Recognition. The ugly truth he had spent his life searching for was no longer hidden beneath whispers and rumors. He was hearing it with his own ears. For a moment, every instinct urged him to throw open the door and confront Sam face to face. His hand even drifted toward the doorknob, but he stopped. His feet refused to move. The old wooden porch no longer felt like the entrance to a country store. It felt like sacred ground. A place where decades of buried truth were finally being unearthed. Inside, Sam's voice trailed off. The silence that followed was almost louder than the confession itself. Andre slowly released a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. It felt as though he had been carrying it since the day his father died. Behind the counter, Mr. Jones never looked away. His arms remained folded across his chest, but something in his expression had changed. The muscles along his jaw tightened. Deep lines settled around his tired eyes. Not from anger. From sorrow. From finally understanding the full weight of a story he had unknowingly carried for decades. After a long silence, Mr. Jones slowly uncrossed his arms. He stepped forward. The worn wooden floor creaked beneath his boots. Sam instinctively flinched but kept his eyes lowered. When Mr. Jones finally spoke, his voice was calm, almost reflective.
I sold those grape suckers.
He paused, allowing the memory to settle over the room.
Every Saturday morning, your victim walked through that front door.
Mr. Jones glanced toward the candy display that had long since changed over the years. A faint, sorrowful smile touched his face.
He'd walk over to the counter and ask for his grape suckers the same way every time. He never demanded anything.
Mr. Jones looked directly into Sam's eyes.
He wasn't trying to prove he was better than anybody.
He paused.
He was simply buying his favorite candy before going home to his family.
The silence that followed settled over the store like a heavy blanket. For the first time that night, no one spoke. The truth didn't need any help anymore. Sam's eyes moved nervously from side to side. He searched Mr. Jones's face for something. Anger. Condemnation. Even mercy. But he found none. Mr. Jones remained calm. His voice never rose above a quiet conversation.
You think guilt is payment?
He let the words settle. Then he slowly shook his head.
Guilt never pays a debt. It only waits.
The old store fell silent. There was no shouting, no threats, only truth. Quiet. Steady and impossible to escape. Mr. Jones wasn't offering forgiveness. That much was clear. But neither was he feeding hatred. He had carried enough of that for one lifetime. Outside the front door, Andre knew it was time. He reached for the handle. The old hinges creaked softly as the door opened. The familiar bell above it gave a gentle jingle that echoed through the empty store. Every eye turned. That's when Andre stepped inside. The room seemed to grow heavier the moment he crossed the threshold. The overhead lights cast long shadows across the worn wooden floor, and the familiar hum of the old refrigerator suddenly felt distant, as though even the store itself had fallen silent to witness what was about to happen. Sam remained frozen behind the counter. His hand still gripped its worn edge. His knuckles had turned pale. The trembling he had fought to hide was now impossible to control. Mr. Jones quietly stepped aside. Near the back of the store, the sheriff and his deputy remained silent, allowing the moment to unfold exactly as it needed to. Andre walked forward, slowly, deliberately. Each step echoed across the wooden floor. Thump. Another step. Thump. And then another thump. No one spoke. Andre never reached toward Sam. He never raised his voice. His calm carried more weight than anger ever could. Around them, the old country store seemed almost alive. Glass jars lined the shelves. Flour sacks rested quietly against the wall. The scarred pickle barrel stood exactly where it had for years. Each silent object felt like another witness to a story that had waited decades to be told. Andre stopped only a few feet away. Neither man spoke. They simply looked at one another. Then realization settled across Sam's face. His breathing caught. His eyes widened. The resemblance became impossible to deny. The same eyes, the same posture, and the same quiet strength. It was as though the past had walked through the front door. Sam's face drained of color. His voice barely escaped above a whisper.
Good God Almighty.
He swallowed hard.
I didn't know he had a son.
His eyes never left Andre.
You look just like him.
Andre held his gaze. His voice was low, steady, without hatred, without bitterness, only truth.
You didn't know a lot of things about my father.
The words settled over the room like a final verdict. No one moved. No one interrupted. The silence didn't break. It deepened. Sam's legs began to weaken beneath him. His grip slipped from the counter. His shoulders sagged under a burden he had been carrying for years. The confession hadn't broken him in a single moment. It had been breaking him little by little ever since the day Andre's father died. Tonight, the weight had simply become too much to carry. As the silence lingered, Sam lowered his eyes. Not because he saw a ghost, but because for the first time in decades, he could no longer look away from the memory of the man whose life he had taken. And Andre never took his eyes off Sam. His voice remained calm, measured, almost unsettling in its quiet confidence.
Does that bother you?
He paused just long enough to let the question settle.
I didn't come here to argue with you.
Another step. The old floorboards groaned beneath his boots.
I came here to make you remember.
Sam swallowed hard. The muscles in his throat tightened. His trembling hands searched for something to hold on to. Authority, certainty, an excuse. Instead, they found only the worn edge of the counter. He tightened his grip, trying to steady himself, trying to steady a life that was coming apart. Finally, he forced himself to speak. His deep southern drawl was still there, but the confidence behind it had begun to crack.
I heard what happened to Tom Parker.
He hesitated. His eyes searched Andre's face.
Was that you?
Andre took another slow step forward. Not aggressively, deliberately. He watched every trace of composure disappear from Sam's face. Then Sam asked.
Was it?
A brief silence.
Or did the truth finally catch up with Tom?
The words hung in the air. Behind the counter, Mr. Jones shifted his weight almost imperceptibly. He remained silent. This wasn't his conversation anymore. Sam's breathing became uneven. He let out a long, shaky sigh. His fingers trembled against the scarred countertop. He stared at Andre as though he were looking into the face of a man he thought had been buried years ago. Finally, the words spilled out. Not proudly. Not defiantly. Almost as though he were trying to convince himself.
I did what had to be done.
Andre's expression never changed. His answer came quietly, but it landed with unmistakable force.
No,
He paused.
you did what you believed you could get away with.
The room fell still.